Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a real political head-scratcher, the case of Pam Bondi, a U.S. Attorney General who was fired by the very same president who called her a loyal friend.
So, it's April 2nd, 2026, and President Trump fires his Attorney General, Pam Bondi. But his public statement wasn't exactly what you'd expect for a firing. Instead, it was just full of praise, calling her a great American patriot and a loyal friend. So that leads to a pretty obvious question, right?
If she was such a loyal friend, why on earth was she fired? To really get to the bottom of that, we've got to rewind and look at the path that got her to that office in the first place.
Okay, so her journey to becoming the nation's top cop, well, it shows a long, long history of some very powerful allegiances.
You can see it right here. Over a decade, Bondi's career gets more and more tangled up with Donald Trump's. I mean, it's a classic playbook, right? Move from state politics right into the president's inner circle, and boom, you're running the whole Justice Department.
All right, let's zoom in on that first point. Back in 2013, Bondi is Florida's Attorney General, and complaints against Trump University, they're piling up. We're talking about students who say they were scammed out of thousands of dollars. You'd think it would be a slam-dunk case for an investigation.
But her office decided not to investigate. And get this, the decision came just days after a political action committee supporting her re-election cashed a $25,000 check from, you guessed it, Donald Trump himself. Now, a state ethics commission later cleared her of breaking any laws, but even they had to admit the timing, quote, may raise suspicions. Yeah, you think?
So after her time as Florida's AG, Bondi jumps into the super lucrative world of lobbying. And her client list? It was basically a who's who of powerful players. We're talking private prison giants, big tech, even foreign governments like Qatar. All of them with huge business interests in front of the U.S. government.
And the money? Oh, the money was just staggering. Her contract to lobby Congress for the government of Qatar alone, it paid a cool $115,000 every single month. Okay, so you've got this background of political loyalty, of lobbying for some seriously powerful clients. What happens when you put someone with that resume in charge of the Department of Justice? Well, the answer came fast, and it was controversial.
One of her very first moves, and one of the most talked about, was creating this internal unit called the Weaponization Working Group. Now, its official purpose was to, review investigators and prosecutors, but its real target, way more specific.
And who were they targeting? It wasn't exactly a secret. The group was told, pretty explicitly, to go after the very people who had investigated or prosecuted President Trump, his family, and his businesses. We're talking big names here, like Special Counsel Jack Smith and the former FBI Director James Comey.
But here's the thing. While the DOJ was so busy investigating its own investigators, something else was going on, kind of under the radar. In just her first 6 months, the department quietly dropped over 23,000 pending criminal cases. Just gone.
Yeah, in legal speak, these dropped cases are called declinations. And under Bondi, the number of them just went through the roof. We're talking 45% higher than the average of the last 3 administrations. This wasn't some minor tweak. This was a massive, massive shift.
And listen, these weren't just shoplifting cases getting tossed out. A deep dive by ProPublica found that the junked cases included over 1,300 national security investigations and almost 5,000 cases targeting drug trafficking and money laundering. It really looks like clearing the decks of thousands of serious crimes was just the price of freeing up resources for her new political hit list.
But even that would soon be overshadowed by the one scandal that would truly define her time in office and become a huge liability for the White House. I'm talking about the absolute fiasco of handling the Jeffrey Epstein files.
So, picture this. Bondi's just been confirmed. She goes on national TV and makes this huge promise. She tells everyone a massive reveal is coming, even teasing that the infamous Epstein client list was, and I quote, sitting on my desk right now.
Okay, so what happened next? The DOJ stages this big PR stunt. They start handing out these binders labeled the Epstein Files Phase 1 to conservative media figures. But this whole attempt to look transparent just blew up in their faces when people realized the binders were mostly filled with documents that were already public. Total backfire.
The final result was just a complete 180 from what she promised. Instead of full transparency, key names were blacked out. And worst of all, instead of protecting the victims, the document dump actually exposed some of their most personal, sensitive information to the entire world. A total betrayal. You can imagine the reaction from victims' advocates.
It was swift and it was furious. As the prominent attorney Gloria Allred put it, Bondi had destroyed the trust in the DOJ that victims had a right to expect.
So you've got stalled investigations on one hand and a full-blown PR nightmare over the Epstein files on the other. The political pressure started to build, and that leads us right to the final fallout.
So why was she fired? It turns out it wasn't about a lack of loyalty at all. It was about a lack of wins. Those politically motivated investigations were going nowhere, and the Epstein scandal had become this huge embarrassment that wouldn't go away. According to White House insiders, the president had simply lost his patience.
And this story doesn't even stop there. After she's fired, Congress calls on Bondi to testify about how she handled the Epstein files. And the Justice Department's response? They gave a pretty convenient excuse. She wouldn't be showing up because, in their words, she was no longer Attorney General. Just like that.
The whole case of Pam Bondi really forces us to ask a pretty fundamental question about justice in America, right? When the Attorney General serves a president instead of the law, who's the one that ultimately pays the price?